Hello everybody, my name is Voyadex, welcome back to another Roblox video, and today's video I'm going to talk about the downfall of ROBLOX Aviation. It's a video that has been very bugging me for the last couple of months now, and I have to speak about it openly about ROBLOX Aviation and why there is a downfall in the aviation community. And it's not just me, it are other content creators I've spoken to. I will not mention their names because I'm not sure whether they want to speak out. Yes, about ROBLOX Aviation and how it's become a massive downfall and stuff like that. So no names will be mentioned out of respect, but I know some content creators will probably comment down below, which is completely fine, but like I said, I will not mention their names. I've also spoken to a few airline owners as well with the same issue, and they agree as well. So I will be speaking about the downfall of ROBLOX Aviation. There are a few topics I want to go over. I do know that one of them has already affected my channel because I used to do like Roblox flight videos and product review videos, and all of a sudden I've stopped doing videos like that. It's not based on what's going on in the Voyadex world, it's based on what's in the ROBLOX Aviation community itself, and also about Icelandair as well, which has affected the airline very much. So anyway, I'm going to go into the first topic, so let's go. So the first thing I would like to address is the standards in ROBLOX Aviation. Now, it's not just me, it's like other content creators and also airline owners have also noticed that the standards seem to be very low at the moment. And the lower it is, the less likely an airline can run on ROBLOX Aviation. Now, that's because of how airlines seem to be having their own development plans and stuff like that, and also their own development roadmaps. But it seems to me that when I come to these airlines on Roblox, it always seems to be the same thing over and over again, like the same aircraft, the same route, the same seats, the same menu. And of course, it also comes out to be the same outcome every single time. Now, I know a lot of fans that notice that when I do these flight reviews, I always seem to say like the same things, so such as like staff friendliness, professionalism, the realism. It's because personally, I've got nothing really else to say about it. And of course, I lose that fun in reviewing an airline because it just seems to be the same outcome over and over again. And it's because the standards personally are just so low that I can't review on anything else. And of course, these developers and tech companies have seemed to also have given up on these development plans, so like making aircrafts a bit more realistic or making airports a bit more realistic, you know, for passengers to be like, wow, this is really cool. But when I go to these flights now, there just seems to be no improvement or no change in the airports or the aircrafts. It just seems to be the same thing over and over again. And of course, as content creators, it makes it harder to review and and what to say when it comes to reviewing these like flights and stuff like that, including like product review videos as well, which I've done in the past. I've said a lot of things, but unfortunately when I come to try and review other products now, it makes things a lot more difficult because I'm not sure what to say, what I can't say, and it just seems to be the same thing over and over again, really. And I know some airports do actually wow me, to be fair, I will say that, but there are some assets or aircrafts that don't really specifically wow me anymore. And that's because I review like stuff like airware and stuff like that, so it's already wowed me because of how high tech it is. And of course, when it comes to a different tech company, I'm thinking it's a bit average, but it's not the best I would use for my airline. But I do have to keep on a positive note saying, yeah, if you're starting a new airline, it's good on the budget and stuff like that. But it just makes the standards so low, it makes it difficult for us content creators, airline owners, and also repeated passengers to keep up with the modern era of ROBLOX Aviation. There's nothing new coming out as well, which makes the standards so low. It makes airlines very small, difficult to actually run. So really, that's why the standards are just so low in ROBLOX Aviation. That's what's causing the downfall. And if you guys want to comment down below what you think's causing the downfall, please let me know. It'd be very interesting to see what other people say, whether you're a content creator or a ROBLOX airline owner or ROBLOX airline staff member or just a fan of ROBLOX Aviation. It'd be very interesting to see what you guys say. So anyway, moving on to the second topic. Now, the second topic I want to talk about is, I don't know whether people out there in ROBLOX Aviation experience the constant server crashes. Now, when I come to these flights, I start to record them, we do the whole intro thing, walk around the airport, get on the plane, and then bam, the server crashes or the equipment breaks. It's always a constant issue when it comes to reviewing airlines and also passengers and staff members. It's very frustrating. But it seems to be a running thing at the moment, whether it's tech companies have just stopped caring about updating their aircrafts, their airports, or the scripting. It just seems like they've stopped caring and just taking the money. or it's just the lack of developers and airlines. You know, it's always the constant server crashes or something breaking, for example, like an airport falling apart or an aircraft falling apart. It always seems to be an issue somewhere along the lines, whether it's the development or the tech company have just stopped caring and just gave up completely. And it also brings to the address of the fun of it out anymore. Like, to me, I don't know whether a lot of people, I know a lot of content creators as well, I've also said that it's no longer fun to attend these flights, or it's no longer fun to host a flight. It's just not fun anymore, and you know, it just loses so much because you've got that constant server crash, you've got that equipment breaking, you get the same repetition of things as well, which makes things difficult to review. It makes things difficult to run an airline, and that's what's causing the downfall of ROBLOX Aviation, really, because you want these tech companies, you want these developers to keep the airline going and stuff like that, and you want to keep a good product at a 5-star review. But unfortunately, when I've come to these flights, it just seems to be, everything seems to be breaking. And you know, when I come to these tech companies, they always seem to be like, oh, there's an issue. Then months down the line, they just don't seem to fix it, which is a big downfall and a big problem when it comes to starting an airline on Roblox. So if there was a way for tech companies to come back alive, it would be very much appreciated to, you know, try and save ROBLOX Aviation, really. The third thing I like to mention about on ROBLOX Aviation downfall is the copyright and also airline shutting down. Copyright has always been an issue on Roblox, because I know a lot of brands like Starbucks, they got done for copyright, and of course you can't have Starbucks on Roblox anymore. And unfortunately, Qatar Airways was affected by this copyright, and of course had to change their branding. You know, everything has to be changed. And I know a lot of passengers, staff members, and I know including airline owners, do get affected by this because they don't want to make that change. But unfortunately, when it comes to copyright, they do have to make the change, and of course they do lose those passengers because they expect Qatar Airways to stick to the realism of stuff like the seats, the aircrafts, the branding, stuff like that. But unfortunately, when you do get done for copyright, you do have to change completely everything about the airline, and which of course affects a lot of passengers, and you do lose those members. But with shutting down airlines, I know an airline that was run by a YouTuber. It was called the Dancefloor Group. It was run by 2023 to 2025, and the one thing I want to point out when they mentioned about ceasing operations was because of the lack of activity and the lack of motivation of running an airline. And it's like going back to the standard things as well, where when they said the lack of motivation, because it's just not fun anymore, nothing new comes out in the ROBLOX Aviation tech groups anymore. You know, you just seem to be stuck with the same pattern over and over again. And the lack of activity, they mentioned it was because of staff members and also the passenger account numbers as well. You can start an airline on Roblox, I'm not saying you can't, but when it comes to people that are new to ROBLOX Aviation, you do seem to get that passenger count being like 40, 50 passengers, and then all of a sudden when you start, you know, continuing the airline, changing the development and stuff like that, you seem to lose those passenger numbers. It starts going down to 10, you know, 5 to 1. You know, you seem to notice these things, and unfortunately, airlines do eventually shut down when it just becomes staff-only flights, and of course it ruins the whole purpose of running an airline on Roblox. And it is sad to see airlines shut down. I know one person would comment, and I know I got a lot of messages about Icelandair. Unfortunately, the airline has shut down. I have made that decision, unfortunately. I know I've had a really massive run, and I want to thank all the people that were involved in Icelandair on getting where it was, and of course getting my channel where it is as well, because I know Icelandair played a huge part in it. But unfortunately, it just seems to be the same reason with Fleur, the lack of activity between staff and passengers and myself, and also just the lack of motivation and the fun and enjoyment in it anymore. It just makes things very difficult. And unfortunately, it's sad to see airlines like this start shutting down, including myself. But unfortunately, like I said, the standards and the pricing and stuff just makes things a lot difficult, really. So the fourth thing I'll talk about is pricing and budgeting and why it's affected the downfall of ROBLOX Aviation. It's because when I mentioned in the How to Start an Airline video, I said that pricing and budgeting would be the biggest problem, and it is still currently one of the biggest problems in ROBLOX Aviation. It has caused a lot of downfall. It's because I understand that some tech companies, yes, they are real life businesses, they have to keep up the market value to run a successful business, so, you know, no disrespect to them, but when you've got some tech companies that are selling airports or aircrafts, for example, for the highest cost possible to take your money and then just never say anything and leave, you know, for example, when you've got, say you're looking for an airport, You got like, you found the airport that you wanted, but it comes with the same assets, the same graphics, the same qualities, and of course people would expect to buy the higher cost. In a different tech company, for example, you're spending 900 Robux on the airport, where a different tech company is selling the same airport with the same graphics, the same quality, and the same assets for 400. And of course it scams a lot of people out, and of course you've already lost money before you even begin, or if you're currently running an airline, you just lost money straight away. And of course a lot of people get put off by trying to run an airline on Roblox, or currently running an airline thinking, what's the point of spending so much money on Robux, or spending money just for it to fail. And I see a lot of airlines do this, and of course a lot of people do message me going, Voyadex, is there any chance you can review my airline and stuff like that? Is there any, trying to help you out? And I do try my best. I do try my best to review as many airlines as possible, but when you're spending so much money on a Roblox airline for it not to become successful, you've already lost so much. And I know I am currently in a few Discords, I'm not going to mention the airline names, but I am currently in a few Discords where they've not even had a flight in like a year or two, and they've spent so much Robux that they've not even run a successful flight yet, and it is very disappointing to see that. And I'm thinking, why are you wasting so much money to not run a singular flight when you've got so many passengers and so many staff members ready for it? And of course people start losing members, and they start questioning, why am I losing members? Because I'm spending so much money. I expect to get a lot of members, but that's not always needs to be the case. Now, I know pricing as well on Roblox is very difficult. Advertising especially, it is very difficult because you just basically just advertise a game. You can't really advertise the community anymore. And when you do advertise a game, people do expect it to be like an hobby or steal a brain rot or something like that. But when you're trying to create a game, you're basically trying to force people to join your community and of course join your Discord. And unfortunately, for example, it hasn't worked out. And of course you can use me for example, because when we advertised, it went into a Roblox game. And of course it did get a lot of members, fair enough it did, but it didn't help with the passenger count and stuff like that. It just affected the airline a lot, and of course it just grew the inactivity, and of course the passenger numbers started dropping. And of course I'm thinking, why have I spent so much money on Roblox advertising when I've just got a load of members that are just sitting here doing nothing? And of course it just isn't the case. I know a lot of airlines use like TikTok and YouTube Shorts to advertise, which is fair enough, but sometimes they don't seem to get the attention that they need. And of course they rely on like content creators like myself to review it, so they have that advertisement, and that's what I tried my best to do. But pricing, and going back to that, it's just a massive downfall in Roblox Aviation, and it is very sad to see airlines spend so much money and just get so little, to a point where they just shut down, and you've just lost a load of money when you could have spent it somewhere else. So another thing I want to point out is the competition on Roblox Aviation. So for example, you've got your airline, and of course you've created that airline, but unfortunately the airline with the same name and same branding has higher members and higher passenger count, where you're just starting off. And of course a lot of people instantly think, you're just copying them. But like I said on the how to start an airline video, if you go on Packables, you already got stuff there. So for example, like if you're searching like Jet2 or anything like that, it's already there. And then a lot of people think, you're just copying the big Jet2 and stuff like that. And a lot of people also be fooled by the number of members as well, because you can have a very high Jet2, for example, and of course you've got the same, there's a good experience, positive note, for example. And I know a lot of content creators and passengers do have different opinions and different feedback, but I have seen on YouTube a couple of times where people do say that the lower the airline, the better quality and the better positive note on things. And it's actually quite interesting to see, to be fair. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. And I gotta say this myself, that I have been to a few airlines with very low member count, and it is better than the big ones. But at the end of the day, the competition is there, and of course it is very, very toxic as well. This is because it's based on, like, say, the quality or the assets that they use, the aircraft model they use, or the tech company that you've used for your airline. It makes things a lot difficult and very toxic. Now, I know last year I experienced this myself with Icelandair against somebody else, which I will not mention their name out of respect, but it makes things a lot difficult to try and run an airline because you're focusing on that drama itself, and then you're thinking, what's the point of running an airline if I'm just going to start an airline for drama, which isn't always the case, and it puts a lot of people off. So the competition, really, that a lot of people just join bigger airlines now and just don't really want to think about starting another one or create one with the same branding, and that's what really puts a lot of people off and causing the downfall of ROBLOX Aviation, because you don't seem to see like a different Jet2 or different Ryanair or different TUI, you know, getting the names out there and the passenger numbers, so it makes things a lot difficult really competition wise. So that's all I've got to say on what I think is causing the downfall of ROBLOX Aviation. There are a lot more topics, but I think those are the main issues of why the ROBLOX Aviation is having a massive downfall and why a lot of people aren't attending flights anymore and stuff like that, and it is a bit of a shame really. And if any content creators out there watching this video, or ROBLOX staff members or ROBLOX airline owners out there, want to comment their opinions down below on what they think is causing the main problems in ROBLOX Aviation, feel free to let me know and see what you guys think, and and hopefully what you guys think that should be an improvement in the ROBLOX Aviation to stop this downfall from happening and build a stronger community again. But I know a lot of questions as well want to be asked, and I will be answering them now. Will Icelandair run again? I'm not really entirely sure, to be truthfully honest. I'm not quite sure whether I can restart Icelandair or start a new airline from fresh. I don't 100% know what's going to happen with Icelandair, because it has been very inactive for the last over a couple of months. With the channel, I will hopefully still continue doing ROBLOX flight videos or ROBLOX product review videos, but I know on the Shell Street video I did mention that I will try and focus more on doing ROBLOX videos, such as like role-playing videos or hobbies or any like horror games and stuff like that. I will be doing something different on the channel. But I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Make sure to like, comment and subscribe, turn on bell notifications to be notified every time I upload, and I'll see you guys soon. Have a good day.